All right. Just like that.
All right.
We're live.
We are live.
We are live with the great and all-powerful Robert Keeley and Aaron Pierce. We're going a few minutes early just because we want to give everybody a chance to, get their YouTube feed alerts and all that. And, of course, we have the great BV as moderator, and we want to always do a little bit of a sound check. So just give us a nod, BV, if you can hear us. Hear the guitar, hear the voice. We have one mic. Yeah, turn your volume down on your phone there, RK.
So sorry.
So clearly it looks like we're working if it's coming on Robert's phone. But it is such a treat to have Robert and Aaron here on their travels. They've been bouncing around all over to the necessary places. You guys, did you visit Brett Pompa yesterday?
We did.
Yeah.
It was excellent. He is such a wonderful host.
Yeah, and we got really to know each other through Brett.
Exactly.
And when you put the Halo delay out, which, boom, we have a whole pedal board full of good stuff here today. Man, I was just taken with the Halo and everything it had on board for the size of it. That's kind of what I am impressed with most of your pedals, honestly. And then when the Noble Screamer came out, we did like 2 visits as you were developing, and that's really something that I think other pedal manufacturers should consider. I was talking to my friend at Taylor with the Andy Powers guitar, and they were testing it with players for a year and a half before they released it. And I just think, Nashville, LA, New York, such hubs of great players that you can do real good field testing before you even go to market, which is really, really cool. Yeah. So that's how we met, and
that is how we met.
Been getting along fine ever since. And you can see from this pedal board shot that I have a number of Keeley pedals on here. We brought the Noble Screamer in today. We have the Hydra, the Halo, and the Rotosonic, which we'll jump around and we'll talk about those. But more importantly, you have an hour to ask either of these fine, intelligent gentlemen any question you want about not only Keeley pedals, but gear, tones, and all that sort of stuff.
If you don't fire questions at me, I'm going to start asking Corey here for help on, dominant 7 arpeggios.
I did see that.
I've been stalking you.
Well, we got to get you set up in Working Class Guitar, my site, because all that stuff's in ebook form. Oh, look at that! He's got the merch.
I'm telling you what, I learned a lot.
Let's take a look and make sure I have all this stuff. Boom. Okay, so we got it. Look at that. I'm learning this software, everybody, so we can throw up fun little texts. Boom, little messages right on the screen. So we're rocking. And we started early just so we can kind of get everybody to come in on the feed. But so what we're doing is we're just kind of showcasing some of, Robert and Aaron's designs here with my current pedal board. This is the pedal board that I use 90% of the time right now. And it really does the job. Now, I don't have any of your overdrive pedals in yet, but that can always change because there's more pedal boards. But we really got to know each other, like I said, from the Noble Screamer.
Exactly. Which
we've wired in. It's just sitting on top of my volume pedal right there. And there's plenty of videos out there. I did a video. Can you just tell us a little bit about the nutshell version of the inspiration and what made you put this pedal into what you call a 4-in-1 design? And I'll try not to play over you, but it's too tempting.
I love it. Oh, I'm glad you asked about that, because I can still remember being in my office when I came upon the idea of confusing the two pedals, since they were both green. And that's been something that's kind of in my background for a long time anyways, because like I had said, I decided not to mod the ODR back in the day.
Right.
But I just continued with the Tube Screamer, and that kept me really busy. So, but I remember at our new shop thinking, man, wouldn't it be fun to confuse these 2 green pedals that have quite a bit of a different sound from each other? I wonder if the design of each of them would, lend itself to being able to cross-pollinate the drive and the tone control sections. And sure enough, Creighton is the other electrical engineer that works there, and he started working with systems to put the drive and the tone control section of each of these pedals into an order that we could switch those things back and forth. And we had to come up with dual pots to be able to control each circuit independently. So that concept led to 4-in-1. The fact that you could get 4 different sounds out of these 3 knobs and 2 switches.
Right. So we're set up now. Like if I just click it off, that's just clean.
Yep.
And a lot of us players in Nashville, whether it be from a session world or a live world, that like this sound, it's because when you turn it on, it feels good and it feels like an amplifier. And that's the thing that's always really valuable about this circuit. And I like it with even the drive down that low.
Right.
And I'll even, for those of you that are going to say, check this out, I got a microphone mute. So when I'm talking, you can. So therefore, when I mute the microphone, you don't hear the string noise. That's how high tech we're getting here.
Turn it off and turn it back on as Corey's.
Yeah.
Yeah, super fun. And it, we talk a lot on this channel about how things feel. And if you're a player that doesn't understand that, or maybe you're just kind of saying, well, I don't notice a difference, try a bunch of different things and feel how it responds to your playing. That's what a lot of players are talking about with how things feel. And when somebody of the caliber of Keeley makes a pedal, they're thinking about the player and having it be a natural extension from their hands to the amplifier, for sure. Now, the thing that, obviously it does all of the great, classic ODR1 sounds, in droves, but the real thing was being able to bring in the tone stack or the tone circuit of a tube screamer into that. Why would you want to do that? Well, from what I understand, from my years of playing in Nobles, there's a loss of mid-range in that. So could you talk about how those marry?
Right. On the Nobles ODR1, that's a spectrum tone control. And the way that they designed it is really clever. They have the bass and the treble. I'll just generalize it. They have those two things increase at the same time, approximately, as you turn that control up. So you get kind of it feels like there's a reduction in the mid-range, maybe, but what it is just an increase in the bass and treble.
I didn't know that, but you feel it, but that's what, okay. Yeah.
And then on the Ibanez, it's a much different approach. It's, when you turn the tone control all the way up, that's the maximum amount of treble that's going to come through the circuit that's available. And then as you kind of roll it down, it just filters off the high end more and more.
Right.
Totally different approach. One's a spectrum control boosting two frequencies, and the other one's kind of just cutting.
Is that like almost like a shelving EQ then?
Yeah. Let's see. On the Ibanez tone control would be kind of a shelf.
Yeah, but the Nobles kind of is for bass and treble then too.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see how it would create more of a smiley face.
Yeah.
So let's take let's see if we can maybe change some stuff on that pedal.
Sure. So one thing I like to show the difference of is this drive control first. I'm going to leave it on the Nobles tone control.
Okay.
And then we're going to turn up the drive so we can hear just a little bit more character.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the ODR sound.
Yep.
That's the Ibanez with the soft clipping.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit different. It's a little smoother.
And you definitely hear that mid-range cut.
The bottom end.
Yeah, more bottom end comes in.
I love how switching up those two things gives you a sound that you hadn't heard before.
Right.
Yet it's very appropriate. I like what it did to the mid-range there.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things too when it comes to, my favorite tube screamer player Stevie Ray Vaughan. What was he playing all the times? Mid-60s type Fender circuits. They have a lack of mid-range.
Right.
The tube screamer brings it back, and I've experimented a lot with, that 65 basement up there, and let's go back to the sorry guys if we're not switching cameras, we're getting lost in conversation here. But that's what happens when you're spinning a bunch of plates. But that tube screamer circuit does that for particularly the Strat player, where it's a thinner sounding instrument too, and you fatten it up, and then you have the mid-range. Yeah, there you go. So we can talk about all of this stuff. I already see people are jumping into the chat, which we freaking love, because we want you guys. We're here. This is what we're here for. This isn't to show off any new pedal, or we're just talking about my rig, and we have the brains behind this stuff. And not to leave out any of the other fine folks that are at Keeley that I haven't met, but these are your these are your faces at the moment that we're showcasing here.
I see Nick Harrington is asking, do I have a Metal Zone or a Filaments 4 in the works? Filaments 4 and 1 in the works. Well, that's pretty interesting. I don't know if I have a Metal Zone in the works. I have to admit I don't have a Metal Zone in the works, Nick, but I do have some pretty metal pedals coming out in the future. So
I'm gonna have to squeeze your arm to get me some more Keeley stuff that we can show on here. We've got my essentials, but there's a lot more, and we're gonna get to the chat, but we want to talk a little bit more about my signal path here and what you can see in the picture-in-picture there. We're going into the Noble Screamer first, just because we're adding that to the chain. But normally it would go into that the Argo Fuzz, then I believe the Vibe Machine, then into the drives, which is the Barber Direct Drive, Greer Lightspeed, Cornerstone, Gladio, and then the Keeley presence on the top there, which is the Rotosonic, the Halo Delay, and then the Hydra Reverb in Trem. And the thing, about the Hydra that's cool, and this got reinforced with Josh Scott, talking about how in the old Fender amps that had tremolo in them, the tremolo's after the reverb circuit, which I didn't realize, which makes the Hydra, a perfectly applicable pedal because it's emulating that vibe.
Yeah.
No pun intended,
Exactly. That was actually surprising to me too, when I realized that the tremolo circuit was just adjusting the volume essentially on the output tubes. And or the bias or whatever. So then it was the reverb sound is before that, and then the tremolo sound, is after that. And so we allow you to switch that back and forth on there, but it is kind of startling when you first when you put it into a pedal and you're like, that's really the way it was done, That's
so now you can swirl your reverb, which is really, really cool. It's kind of like, they were dealing with ambient guitar sounds in the 60s before anybody, ever did it, which is super, super cool. Man, we're getting some really, really great comments jumping in. Thanks for everybody. Real quick recap. BB's in the chat helping with links, helping moderate it. So we're real happy to have BB always, who's I believe on vacation. And so in addition to that, folks, we're trying to do this more and more with gear as just a hang. So be sure if you're new to the channel that you're subscribing and you're liking this video so it gets out. Our last one that we did with the Boss IR2 is getting tons of views. People are really loving it. And we did the whole Klon shootout before that, and it's just going well. It's going to be really, really fun. So, on the top realm, like we talked about, we have the Rotosonic, the Halo, and the Hydra. And if you could, I don't think people talk about the Rotosonic very much. Could you kind of give us a little background as far as what you're...
Yep, that's a favorite sound of mine for several reasons. I hear, everything from, say, what I hear Stevie Ray Vaughan uses. I see a lot of one of my favorite guitar players, Trey Anastasio of Fish.
Yeah.
He uses one.
Oh, good.
And he's pretty. Oh, not the Rotosonic.
Oh, a Leslie.
Leslie's.
Yeah, right.
I'm very fond
one
of that sound.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
No, Steve Ray Vaughan never played any of my Rotosonic pedals.
No, I was wondering if Trey
not
might
even
have.
in my dreams.
Yeah.
But no, but what I'm fond about that type of sound is the the fact that the chorus sounds are kind of a natural mechanical thing instead of a bucket brigade device or something that we would normally experience with guitar effects pedals. So in trying to capture those sounds and those experiences of a rotating speaker, there's only so much you can do in the digital world with this processor. So, we're constantly working on ways to evolve that roto type sound.
Yeah.
Because I find it such a fascinating sound, and I think players just love it.
I love it. Can you throw it on real quick?
Sure. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so fun. All great for yeah.
Fun sounds.
Yeah. And that pedal can also do a univibe sound and vibrato too. Yeah.
If you push the switch all the way down, there's a univibe sound. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really thick too.
It is. That's great.
You guys are spoiling me. This is too fun. It's on my damn board and I haven't even tried. I'm like, I haven't even tried that sound.
One of my favorite univibe sounds univibe-ish sounds we have is on the Hydra.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
If you do the trim.
Well, we're gonna put Aaron in the hot seat here in a minute. And what's great about Aaron is he can fiddle with these pedals with his eyes closed, and somehow I don't know how it happened. I'm sure I'm not the only guitar player that feels this way, but when I work with Aaron, when we did the Noble Screamer video and the other meetups that we've had, he's turning the knobs before I tell him what to change because he already heard what I heard faster, and it's I've never had that experience with someone. Man. It's freaking cool, man. It's scary. It's kind of like if you're cooking and somebody jumps in front of you and throws some salt in there because they know they need, you know what I mean? Like he knows. But let's do this. Let's take a couple chat questions and then we'll get Aaron in the hot seat and we'll spin some knobs.
This sounds fun.
Yeah, and then of course any questions that Robert has, he can always jump into. We're gonna go way to the top because there's a lot of people. What does the Halo pedal do? We're gonna talk about the Halo. The Halo is the collaboration that they did with Andy Timmons, the great Andy Timmons, and who has wonderful tones in his not only his hands, but in his brain. And they created a wonderful delay pedal called the Halo. What's up, James Orton? Thank you so much. I love how your projects always start with, wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah.
That is your phrase, Maestro.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun?
It'd be fun.
Mr. TV checking in from Minneapolis. Again, if I look up, it's just because I'm reading the chat for you guys. Any leaks for the impending Andy Timmons release? Oh, no. What are we talking about? It couldn't be anything. I think what people probably do is they see you guys hanging out, and then they know something's up.
They know something's
up.
I have people constantly texting me what their guess is. You know what I mean? I see a couple people in here guessing as well too.
A dual AT mod pedal in the future. I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Bet you Andy would like that too. He's like,
can you tease any upcoming pedals? No, we can't do that.
Sometime in the next year, we might be looking at a new Rotary pedal.
That would be cool. And I'm be your target market for
Corey
that.
is the guy for
So, and you'll definitely be involved. This Rotary that may or may not exist is something we definitely want your input on.
Oh, be happy to. Be happy to.
It might be the first pedal that we actually incorporate MIDI. So
Wow.
It's going to be quite a stretch for us. So, like you were saying in the beginning, how manufacturers, you noticed that we had spent a lot of time developing on it. It's not a simple thing where I'm just like, oh man, this feels good moving at this pace. No, it's like there's just lots of stuff to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And when you work with more and more professional people, you realize, hey, there's a bunch of different situations I need to take care of here, whether it's in a live environment or in a studio environment. And, how does this guy play? What's his pick attack like?
Right.
What's what kind of input am I feeding these instruments, or these pedals? And so it's going to take us a lot of time to work out all the things I want our new Rotary to do, or any new pedal that we have coming down. You saw that there's so many things that the Halo and the Hydra do. And I have a tendency to kind of pack in a little too much, you know what I mean? But so we're always trying to find ways to make things simpler for the end user.
Right.
There's nothing worse than somebody saying, hey, can you make an adult size version of the manual so I can read it?
Well, here's the thing. Now that I have a real deal manufacturer in-house, one of the things we've been doing, and this isn't to scare you, guys don't want you to come back, but like if I buy, like this recent one we did, I bought the pedal because I wanted to give a really fair assessment of it. And there was things I liked and things I didn't like about it. And it was a digital modeler, so that has its place altogether. But one of the things that we talked about was the first description of the amp model said, designed to accentuate the idiosyncrasies of the bubble. And I'm like, can we just say it's supposed to be a JC 120 or something?
Yeah.
Like, so you guys are
Exactly.
your manuals are very fun and straightforward, so stick with that because we like that. We like that. Some folks are asking more questions. I like this one from Nick Harrington. What's your favorite guitar amp combo when you start testing a pedal?
Something that I feel comfortable on, or I have quite memorized. So it's usually going to be a Strat or a Telecaster. I just so I know from experience, what kind of things I'm expecting to hear back from my effect pedal. You know what I mean? How much range it has, how quickly it'll distort, how much the bass or treble is accentuated or cut back. So it's usually something pretty familiar.
Yeah, I think it's like a constant. Something that you're always understanding before you even plug it in. You know what you're going to get from it.
Yeah, but that's not to say that's just say initial impressions of it, but you have to go through things like listening to it with high output humbuckers so you can detect any other possible problems.
That's another thing I struggle with a lot of times is some manufacturers, not to go against what you're saying, but kind of Strats and Tellies always sound good. This is when you start to get, because there's so many variations of humbuckers, and single coils too, but humbuckers are tricky, and all of your stuff just always sounds so good with humbuckers. So you're doing something right for me. That's for sure. Somebody's asking, about John Petrucci. Do you guys know John Petrucci?
Yeah. I was talking.
Should you try and bring him on a show? Curious about his approach on overdrive pedals, especially with his modded red dirt.
That's so cool that you mentioned that heavy metal, because he. I was looking at my phone, my push notifications, and all of a sudden, it was like Thursday or something like that. Yeah. And John Petrucci buys a Noble Screamer.
Oh,
I'm like,
nice.
What? It was the PayPal notification. It said John Petrucci, and I recognized the amount, and I'm like, he didn't even ask for a discount or nothing. I would have.
Love it.
I'll give him a couple dollars off.
Yeah, man.
But
shave him the shipping.
So then, by the time I remembered to sit down and write him an email, and he wrote me back, and he says, well, actually, I got one from my wife got one, and she started teasing me. Rena started teasing me because she got one, and so I had to get one from Sweetwater, so or something like that. So he was like, "So we got two on the way."
Oh man, he's loaded. So, he's loaded.
Yeah,
he's got plenty of Noble Screamers in house.
Yeah.
Any plans for the modulation pedals in the Hydra platform? That's a really good question.
You know what? I'm gonna spoil some potential possibility that probably has a 5% chance of happening. But that Hydra platform and the Halo platform, we spent many years developing Creighton and Tackett, both guys putting in enormous amounts of hours and years into perfecting that. So it's kind of a shame to move on to greener pastures when we've got this new enclosures and stuff like that. So I have thought about this would be a perfect platform, say, for Eddie Heitzelman. We make a small Verbatrem pedal, right? Mm-hmm. But there would be nothing that would preclude us from making an Eddie Heitzelman Verbatrem on this platform.
Yeah.
And having it be, an extension of what we did with him in the past. So, yeah, I don't want to abandon that platform because we put so much capital into it. You know what I mean? And it's so rewarding. This has been, the Halo has been under scrutiny from a lot of different pro players and pro guitar techs, and they like the way it sounds. So it's a winning thing for us. So I definitely don't want to leave it too soon.
Right. No, and I think the platforms, the design of the Noble Screamer box and the Hydra and Halo and then the Echoes too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Like to me that's like Keeley 2.0 to me. It really feels like less single pedal but more, how can I say it? I don't know, just like a stylistic thing that really speaks to where you guys are headed. That's super cool. Yeah.
It is. We're trying to definitely take a step up and put ourselves at a new level. So we're constantly evaluating, what we're going to do in the next 2 or 3 years to see how we make sure that it looks, congruent and it takes us to the next level. I want to look like a Universal Audio, Strymon.
Aesthetic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Somebody on here had asked, I can't remember who it was, but they asked who would I want to partner. Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is.
Who would be your dream pedal
Fender
builder?
1960 CS. Who would be your dream pedal builder to do a collaboration with?
Fender Custom Shop 1960. You know what? I'm feeling like the answer today, this minute, would be Universal Audio. I would love to work with James Santiago.
He's brilliant.
I know, right?
Yeah, there's not much he doesn't know about guitar tone.
Exactly.
And what year and what model and, right on down the line. Yeah. It's like I could talk to James for 3 minutes and come out more educated than before.
Every time. I think we're both 1970 models too. we might even be both Geminis, but George Trips would be another
George
person.
Trips for sure, yeah.
Heck, now that I'm thinking about it, there's lots of people I like to work with.
Yeah. What's been your best selling pedal over the years? Can I take a guess?
Yes. Please. You have to guess the exact number of pedals we built of it.
No, I'll never go do that. I would say it's got to be your first compressor.
Yes, our compressor is still our bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's what we're known for. I think it's because it sounds pretty good. But we have, I think it's at least at 120, if not 150,000. I think.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember. I thought I was going to be able to pull it out in my head, but it's at least 120. And somebody maybe from the shop is watching and they're going to be like, no, it's at 130 now. So. Wow. It's quite a few.
Yeah,
I think in comparison, that's not compressors aren't very sexy.
No.
And, but if I compare it to numbers, say, that I got when talking with Mike Fuller a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken, he said that he had sold at least 120,000 of the Full Drive 2 and 180,000 of the OCDs.
Yeah.
So, for a compressor to do that much, that's pretty cool.
That's really, really good. Yeah, whenever, a company would reach out and say, hey, would you like to do a compressor video? I'm like, no. Yeah. And I've done one. I did one for Source Audio with it, talk about a company that packs a lot into a pedal.
He's a brilliant guy.
Yeah. That was a great compressor. Mm-hmm. But as someone that makes demo videos, it takes a lot to make it speak because it's more of talk about feel.
Yeah,
it's all feel. It's all feel. It's really tough. But there's more about like kind of processes you can use a compressor with, you know.
Sure.
And that's our special dog bark pedal
Yeah.
that's happening in the So, hey, why don't we pause on the questions?
Sure.
Get Aaron in the hot seat. You guys probably would be best to just switch headphones.
Okay.
So you're not getting the wires crossed, literally and figuratively. But man, we're having a blast, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't
thank
forget, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the like button. We would love that. I want to try to move. I can move this picture-in-picture thing over to the other side. Watch this. All right,
look at
so you
you
guys
go.
can see my guitar. All right, there we go.
Can they hear?
Yeah.
This room is incredible, Corey. I love being here.
We're having such a good
So
time.
fun.
This is awesome. So Aaron, you know these pedals backwards and forwards. Let's move on from the Noble Screamer. We can add it to our chain, but somebody asked about the Halo, so we want to make sure that we really can give them a good definition of all of them. And don't worry about my presets. Just don't save anything.
You got the goods. Well, I loved preset 1A, I believe you have as a slapback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd love to go through some different sounds because we got 5 different rhythms. And then you need to talk about your oil can delay
Okay, yeah.
because that is a really cool inspiration for people that either if they have a Halo or don't.
Okay.
Just what that means to you when you're like, this is like an oil can, you know what I mean?
I don't even think I know what that means. I just know that it's kind of this like fun, dirty analog.
No, you got it
kind of
dialed
thing.
in, man. It sounds good. So,
So
yeah.
throw on one, and we'll just do a quick slap.
So I'm going to turn off the Hydra. We've been running the Hydra.
Yeah, or you
with
can
the
just
plate
pull it
reverb.
down, pull the mix down, so it's not a dry guitar on the internet.
Yeah,
Nobody
go
likes
ahead
that. So I just keep it simple with that when I'm playing live, and that's kind of like an always on thing for me. Like if I do the light speed to give me a little more gain. It's like a fake room sound for me. That's kind of what I use that for, and the Halo does it in a really nice kind of clean way for
Yeah.
me.
What I was doing there is the switch you're not using, the stomp you're not using, it can do self-oscillation when you hold it. And
Well,
so
let's do it on a longer one too. That would be cool.
So just to show it real quick on the slap, though,
Yeah.
you get this cool kind of psychobilly
Yeah.
effect.
That's cool. I'm going to use that more when like I end a song.
It's really cool because you can hold it, and Aaron Tackett, who's our head DSP engineer, incredible job at how the tail end fades out, you know, because it's not on the longer one we'll hear it, but it doesn't just choke it off right away. It kind of just it's a great fade out.
It has a little bit of a spring reverb feel to it also.
Well, and that's one thing that we can maybe experiment with here in a second. You can actually get this thing to kind of sound like a spring reverb.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But let's go to a longer one. If we hold both stomps, you know, that's how you switch presets on the fly. And I believe you had 2B, is that right? Or 2A is your Halo.
2A is Halo. 2B is just a single repeat about 300 milliseconds.
So when we say Halo, for us, you know, Andy Timmons, his signature delay sound was dotted eighth going into quarter. So that is a Halo.
So it's 2 delays at the same time.
Yeah, and Maestro could speak to just how cool that is. The feathering that happens, I think, as Andy calls it.
Yeah, that's more of the magic that Aaron Tackett came up with in the programming, because he has got a way to feather and change the phase relationship between the delays so that sometimes they appear very prominent in the mix and other times they sit behind what you're playing, almost like a ducking effect.
Right, and that's what I love about this.
Yeah, it's actually, this is kind of funny for us, it's actually an error in the code that makes it do this thing where you would swear there's a reverb on. Like, I'm going to turn the Hydra off and I'm going to dial some stuff real quick.
Yeah,
Okay?
so I'm going to mute your mic and just play.
So then when Corey's playing through his passage, you don't really hear the delays pop out as much. See how it fades out.
That is fun.
So that's kind of the ongoing joke in the 2.5 years of development was, where's the reverb coming from?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's the saturate control, which you have, the 5 different parameters there, but then we have these alt features. So just to show something really quick, if we were to turn that saturate control all the way down, those delays are going to pop out.
Okay, let's do
So
it.
here's So now play through like a passage. See how much it's just kind of
Overwhelming now.
So check
Yeah.
this out. So then
There's that reverb feel that it gives.
yeah,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
it like tucks it away, and it's not ducking,
Yeah.
which is really interesting because there's the ducking effects. You could speak to that, but it's
Right.
an error. It's wrong. What
So-
is it?
So ducking, I was introduced to it in the early Line 6 days, and it was, I'm going to put this in the most layman guitar player terms ever, is that when you play, it's quiet. When you stop playing, it's on. It's almost like a playing gate in a sense.
That's a good way to say it.
But what's cool about the Halo that Aaron is dialing in there is that I can play those pads, and it's not obtrusive, and it's really adding to something. And I use that sound quite a bit on like little vibey things,
And
it's really useful.
one thing I'll show that I personally like, it's that saturate control it's kind of adding this distortion into it. And so if you crank it, it has this really kind of dirty, almost sounds like dirty tape.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
check this out.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you're playing, one of the things that always makes the mark of a good delay pedal is your normal guitar sound coming out on the forefront, and is that delay ducked behind you. And that's not necessarily achieved with a mix control. You know what I mean? That's just a level of, the blend
Yeah,
ultimately.
yeah.
But when I do this, it's a little wet probably, but for that kind of thing, but you can dial that and it's just going to hover right underneath your guitar sound.
Check this out.
All right, this is why I love Aaron. Turn that the drive off real quick, both of them. Yeah.
That's almost that rotary sound that you were talking about.
This is when we were doing R&D was, you can get the modulation.
Yeah.
And so the way to really hear how good is their modulation is turn the time all the way down, the fastest speed.
Right.
And you can kind of hear that full
So
sweep.
the depth up. When I was in recording school, way back when, they said, chorus is just a short delay time. And I was like, what? Because I had a chorus pedal. I didn't know that was what was happening. And then they were showing us with studio processors how to achieve those sounds. So if you don't know, chorus is actually delay, but a very short time, and I imagine you're cranking the depth, or the level,
yeah, or the mix, or whatever it might be on your pedal,
yeah.
Crank it all the way up, and then turn your time the fastest time.
Yeah.
So.
If you go to that 2B, what I've kind of dialed in. So I try to get like a...
That is the oil can thing.
Yeah.
One thing we'll show people here, because I don't know how Corey set that, but
I won't remember.
It sounds like that you have that saturate control up.
That's what it is.
And so this is how you could tell.
So
like
the trails.
The trail, yeah, but I think because you're getting some of that, what I was saying, like whenever it's worn out tape,
yeah,
you kind of get more of the distorted trails,
Right.
But I don't know. But what's cool about the Halo, we can see if we can fact check this. When you hold down this is how you get into the alt controls,
Yep.
and then that status control shows you where that knob, that parameter is. So let's check it.
Yep, there we
See?
go.
Yeah, so you had that saturate control
Cranks,
up quite a bit, and that's what adds that distorted kind of oil can, worn tape delay. Very cool, man. I love that.
And
stuff.
I tried to get it to like a triplet kind of feel, or like a 500 millisecond thing, because we were talking about Emmylou Harris and Buddy Miller. Right in there is Daniel Lanois for me, and it was 500 milliseconds was always the go-to for the edge sounds and all that kind of stuff. And then in 1A is a 300 millisecond, so that's kind of like like a single repeat Eddie Van Halen sort of thing. Just in that's a perfect time, for that kind of setting.
That's killer. Should we take any more questions? Or
I think we should, because they're coming in fast and furious. Wondering what the AT Mod overdrive pedal is all about. We actually have one right there. That was a limited run, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're still they're out there on Reverb, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff in the works. That's all we can say. All
right, let's see. The Dark Side needs some love. It's an amazing pedal.
The Dark Side does need some love. It's years in discussion. Dark Side, stereo Dark Side, V4.9, something like that, But now that we have our own enclosures, now that we make and design our own enclosures, again, a whole new level is opened up for us in terms of what we can do with pedals. The Dark Side, wouldn't it be nice if you could run delay and modulation independent from each other and things like that? So all those things become a lot more attractive for us to put together if we have our own enclosure.
Yeah, totally.
And so all those things will come about.
Let's see here. I'm just trying to, there's so many great questions. Aaron does have a phenomenal tone for ear. I've been saying that for years.
Oh, yeah.
These oil cans are defective. Send us your oil cans, people.
Desert Fisherman has he has one on both of his boards, a Keeley compressor.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Where does here's a good one.
Yep.
Where's the inspiration for the pedal names come from? I'm guessing Hydra and Argo have a Greek link. Well, Argo is the Mythos fuzz pedal that's on the board, and he derives most of his stuff from mythical characters and the Mjolnir and the Herculean and all those kinds of pedals. That's a cool thing he's got going. But when it comes to Hydra and Halo, those are probably two of the cooler, more recognizable Keeley names.
I think the Halo is definitely going to be an Andy Timmons thing. He kept on referring to it as this halo around his notes. But the Hydra, I came up with. I think it's a good wet thing, especially for a reverb pedal. You can tell if you know me long enough, you can tell that the Rotosonic is definitely something I would have come up with. I like combining two words. I like combining a lot of things and trying to come up with something a little different. So the Bubbletron, that's a perfect example of me thinking, you know what I mean?
But that's a cool name.
The Noble Screamer. It's I like combining two things to make something new.
The oversized foot switches are indeed barefoot buttons, and I put those on there because you do have to hit those buttons at the same time to access the presets. But there's ultimately 8 presets available in a pedal that size. Pretty great. How about a wah-wah?
That's so funny.
I love wah-wahs.
That's a theme.
Don't you? Frank, yeah, that looked like Frank Zappa to me. But
I get that too. With the whole, I actually went as Frank Zappa for Halloween once.
I was trying to dress up as you. I'm going as Corey today.
When we got our when Maestro invested in these machines where we're doing all of our enclosures in-house, it was actually the first thing that he said was like, I can do a wall now.
Yeah.
Because we could, you know,
make your own.
And make it the perfect size where it's not too big, not too small. But
what everybody tells me on the pedal circuit is that wahs are tough because they're expensive to make because of that housing being, eating into the cost. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Hydra a little bit. And if anybody has any other questions on the Keeley pedals we've been talking about, please fire them in the chat. We're going to go for probably another 15, 20 minutes here. But man, when in Rome, when in Nashville, come on over and jump in front of the live stream. So here we are. So big thanks to Aaron and Robert for joining me. So let's talk about the Hydra.
Yeah, so you got, Maestro kind of talked about it, but we give you reverb and trim, 3 different reverb sounds, 3 different trims.
Right.
I don't want to do the whole pitch on it because people can go check out demos, but I'll just jump into sounds I think that will inspire you.
You do a couple things. Obviously, I asked you to dial a plate for me. You did a great job. Then you also, if you just give me a flavor of a plate, a spring, and a room, and the room you always dial for me is really good. Yeah. So I want people to hear that.
Yeah, so why don't we just play and I'll turn some knobs and then kind of explain what happened, if Corey liked it or if he didn't.
Okay. So it's totally dry there.
Slap. Here's the room.
Nice.
So that's the biggest room. We give you this. Every reverb has a reverb modifier.
Right.
This room is my favorite modifier because you can change the size of the room. So the biggest room almost gets kind of a plate sound. So that's a really big size room. But the smaller room, you can get like a slapback kind of thing.
Right.
Going.
Let's put some drive on here. Yeah.
So what I'm going for here, as Corey's playing, I'm thinking like old Magnatone amp with the pitch shifting vibrato, like the Lonnie Mac thing. And so you get, this, we can show that off, but we have vibrato, but it's, like I said, the pitch shifting vibrato.
Right.
So then you can get this cool, like, 50s kind of sound, and then the room, reverb is like putting the mic away
from the room. Exactly. Yeah. Let's hear some of that.
Without the vibrato. Then with
it. Different kind of vibrato. And when you do that kind of stuff, it makes you just play it differently. You know what I mean?
Why are you so swampy?
Yeah.
You swampy.
I took a shower. I don't know.
I didn't say you stanky. You swampy. No, so
But that's what it makes me do.
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
for sure.
So then let me dial this, Corey. I want to see what it inspires for you, the harmonic trim on this. You know, you talked about how we met through the Noble Screamer sessions. And, you know, you, Tom Bukovac, we had all these incredible players come and give us honest feedback about our pedal. But I remember specifically with Tom, we're like sitting there listening to the Noble Screamer. I turned on the Hydra harmonic trim and he was like, what is that? Let's talk about
Yeah.
And so I'd love to dial that up actually with a halo and kind of create this
let's have
ambient
fun with
thing and
that.
see what you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really good, man.
Fun stuff, man.
So yeah, that's some of our favorite sounds in the Hydra.
Yeah, I've really grown to like that pedal because, you know, I was on a session recently and I didn't even realize that the pedal had the shimmer quality in it too, the octave reverb
on the plate. That's that modifier.
Yeah, so every reverb has like a little extra special something. Like the spring, you can do the more springs or less springs.
Yeah, we call it spring age, which is Maestro's thing. Which it sounds so like markety, but it's really it actually makes sense though. But yeah, you can change to is it a really tight sound or really kind of floppy like a where it almost gets into that I guess they call it like a drip kind of sound, like the old surf
drip,
sound
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just going back through the chat, guys. I just want to try to get a couple more questions going in here. Well, talking about implementing MIDI into Hydra or Halo, that's probably something you guys have thought about, and that's a
Halo,
weird
sure.
a weird bridge to cross because it's another thing you got to squeeze into that pedal.
Yeah.
But man, such a great sound. Can you build an accessory with a switch and a volume pedal to use for? People are getting in the weeds here. They want you guys creating accessories and all kinds of stuff.
Well, the other gentleman on here was wanting me to talk about creating an amp.
I saw that. We're going to get to him. What's the green pedal with the gold knobs in the middle? That is the Rotosonic, Brad. We jumped on that earlier, but maybe hit it real quick. Just give me some more speed on that control. Yeah, so we get some more of that sort of Leslie. Yeah. There we got that one. Let's take a couple more questions here. I like this one a lot. Being a musician is already an expensive hobby. I ask what attracts you guys to get for physical equipment instead of something digital that can make your guitar sound like anything. I love these questions because it really speaks to me, being someone that really likes individual pedal boxes. The thing about these units is when I go to twist a knob, there's actually a tactile thing for me. I can hear and feel how the sound is changing with the potentiometer. With a digital slider or a mouse or any of those, or a encoder, since it's all digital, it doesn't have the linear or logarithmic feel to it, and that is. Some people like cast iron skillets, some people like non-stick pans, but you got different jobs for each of them, right? And for me, I've always been in a situation where I had to get a sound quickly, like either on a stage or in a session. Particularly if you're in a session, they will not wait for you to go tick, 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 tick. You got to go bam, turn, done. You know what I mean? And move on. You know, the producer will get mad at you for that. And every pedal on that board, every amp on this wall, all has your personalities in them, or any other builder's personality in them. And that's something I'm really, interested in promoting all the time, is the individual minds and hands that go into this stuff. Because nobody designs a guitar amp or a pedal and says, well, I'm going to do this to get rich. You do it because you love it, and you love the evolution of the product, the camaraderie with the players and all that kind of stuff. And for me as a player, most digital products don't do that. Now, they're great tools if used in a certain way, but pedals and analog gear just always feels like home to me.
Yeah.
So,
I think you brought up a good point of, with the analog approach, you're going after a thing.
right.
So then it feels like you can kind of, I mean, I know at least for us in the R&D process, even with the Halo where there's so much, I mean, for us, it's like Maestro said, like we put so much into that pedal that you can do, but we were really going after a thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, Andy would run 2 EP2s together, you know, and do that dotted eighth and quarter. So then we're using the digital world to achieve an analog approach.
Right.
And I think, to your point, when you have that as your goal, you kind of have to put all your eggs in one basket, where the digital thing is like, okay, that's good enough. It could easily turn into that. Not saying, you know, there's some companies out there that are just, I mean, mind-blowing, the stuff they do in the digital world. But that's, at least I feel like our approach is, even when we do the digital programming, we try to go after a thing first, devote all of our time to that, and then move on.
Yeah. No, so that, I love those kinds of questions. The digital stuff is certainly very, very valuable. Hey, thanks, John. Great to have you on the stream here with us. I thought this would be a really great opportunity to talk to some masters and get some answers. Let's see here. I don't understand Nick's question. Do you have a favorite colorway of pedal you have done over the years?
Yeah, I think he's asking about a certain color or design.
Okay.
Like, for instance, on our compressor mini, we have this little pedals will kill you character. Then sometimes they're even on rolling paper themed. And there's been a time or two that I thought that little compressor mini, the orange one, was maybe one of my favorites.
Nice.
So, but the new Noble Screamer, that series of pedals is gonna end up being my favorite.
Yeah. Well, there's so much, you know, one of the things I learned from going to lunch with these guys a few times is, you know, a lot of pedal companies, you design, and then sometimes people will build it for you. They'll build the enclosure for you, and then it all comes together. You guys are doing 90% of that in-house now, right? Everything. So, I mean, we talked about knobs. We talked about enclosures. That's a big step for these guys to get to. It's for sure.
Maestro literally just bought Corey a whole nother line for us to do our SMT line. So we're doing all of our circuit boards in-house.
Wow.
I mean, the only thing he's not doing right now is making his own knobs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I
He's on
understand, from what I understand, there's like knob providers that like have binders full of pages of knobs. It's maddening. I went to my buddy Zach of Mythos Pedals because I built one of the Stumac fuzz pedals, right? And he's like, "Oh, I got to give you better knobs. Come over." And he had buckets of knobs. Yeah. I would love to have those Halo settings.
I can get them for him now.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Let's do that real quick.
I mean, your favorite.
Let's do like three of your dialed in Halo settings.
Well, your slap is amazing. So Corey's slap right now is
let's go back to here.
1A.
See.
And so again, this is really got to give it up to Andy Timmons, because he was like, you guys have to have it to where I can see where the knob was.
This is important. I'm glad you're mentioning
and so
that.
If you check out the status light, when I move a perimeter, we'll go through all of them. So right now, Corey, this is how he sets his level for his slap. When you see the light go off, that's where the level is.
Love it.
So now the time, that's where the time is. The feedback, so the repeats. Oh yeah, you said you just did one.
One slap is going to be way down. Yeah.
And then modulation, so that tape warble. Is he doing it? Nope. Oh, he's doing a slow one. Let's see where the depth is. Okay, you got a little bit.
Yeah.
Your tape's kind of new. It's not out. You know?
That's right.
And then now if we go over to the tone, that's where the tone is. Okay, and then the saturate. And then the alt feature here just picks the rhythm, so if it's a slap, it's going to be quarter note.
Right.
Right there.
Exactly. So what Aaron did right there was by moving those knobs, and when you see the light go off, that means that's where I had it before I saved it. And that's really cool because it'll get you out of a jam if you're tweaking, you know, and you want to know where to get back to or whatever. And a lot of things, one thing your knobs don't do as much as other digital pedals is there is a level of pickup that all digital potentiometers have to do, but it doesn't seem like yours don't annoy me as much.
The zipper noise is what we call it.
Zipper noise, is that what you're referring to? Like you hear you'll hear the different changes take place. Yeah, we do try to make sure that there's so many divisions or so many, almost an analog amount of possibilities, not really, but so that you don't hear that type of zipper noise. It doesn't, because I don't like the way that feels either.
Yeah.
I came up with a couple prototypes of tube screamer type circuits, red dirt circuits with digipots, and that is definitely the biggest concern. If you're moving what you think might be an analog drive or a distortion pedal, you don't expect to get, you know, digital pot noise in there.
Right.
That means a lot, Corey, because we actually pay attention to that
stuff. Good. Well, I'm listening. Let's look at a couple more questions before we jump off here.
Kevin Robinson, that was a great question because it shows off one of the better features of the Halo. One of the cool features.
Went through that.
Getting back to that.
Yeah, and have you ever thought of creating an amp? And if so, what would you go for?
We did one, or he did one with Supro, but what would you do, Maestro, if you were to make your own amp?
Well, I would probably just do what Leo Fender did first. You know what I mean?
That's where it all starts. I mean, it's hard to, and isn't it funny as guitar players how our brains and our ears are just so tied to the circuits we've been hearing for 60, 70 years, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
A Tweed Deluxe. That's what Maestro's answer is.
Yeah, right. And Desert Fisherman says, more pedals in the Noble Screamer enclosure. Klon, Super Fat Mod, 4-in-1.
Yep.
Man, all right. Is that guy a plant? Is he trying to get you guys influenced by any pod? Yeah.
Maestro actually just created that account and sent that comment.
I've been over here
He's been over
texting.
texting. Sweet. Well, let's do a couple more. Let's do a little more playing, and then we'll call it a day. And if you just joined in, Robert was in the hot seat earlier, and we had Aaron jump in to kind of help us really twiddle some knobs. Yeah. So I want to play a little bit. Oh man, you guys are too much.
Killer.
He's my favorite knob spinner in the biz right here.
He is.
Yeah, he's so good. And you know, we're just so glad to have these guys with us and being good sports and hanging out.
Thank you.
Other folks are going to be chiming in, and we'll leave. This stream's going to be up, so jump in the comments. You know, obviously hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, but jump in the comments after we end this broadcast here in a few seconds, and you know, add more questions. Tell us what you think about all this great stuff. You know, Aaron and Robert will be checking the links. I'll share this in other places too, and we'll just have a good time talking about all this great stuff, man.
Corey, thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure. We're going to go get some lunch,
Let's
but we'll see you guys next time with some more great stuff. We're going to do a whole other ODR1 shootout with the Noble Screamer live, and I have a whole stack of other cool pedals we're gonna hear and compare. It's going to be really cool. So that's coming up in the next couple streams as well as some other good gear and hopefully some guests too.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all. Thank you so
guys.
much.